Hi, my name is Tyler, and I'm a PhD student at Leipzig University, where I study Sanskrit philosophy and philology. But today I'm not going to talk very much about Sanskrit in particular. Instead, I'm going to talk about LDA topic modeling, and in particular, two tools written by a colleague of mine, which I have found to be really useful in getting started thinking about and working with this method. So I'm going to offer a sort of half tutorial, half review of these tools. I'll start my screen share now. And I'll start you off with my academia page, where I can refer you to a paper I've written if you're interested in the details about the Sanskrit, where I've talked about how I build the corpus and adapt it to this particular use case. But mostly today, I'm going to be presenting tools written by my colleague Thomas, also at Leipzig. And I'm going to refer you to his GitHub page, where you can find under his repositories ToPān, which is the first and most important of the tools I'll talk about today, which does the topic modeling for you and also some visualization. And specifically, we're going to look at Tidy ToPān, which is a streamlined latest version of it. And we'll also briefly talk about another tool named Metallō, which helps you to understand and visualize another aspect of topic modeling output. And you can see Thomas is a scholar of ancient Greek. That's why he's chosen the names he has. But again, regardless of which language you specialize in, these topics can work for you as long as certain data requirements are satisfied. So let's now talk about what is topic modeling. I don't have a lot of time to go into this. I'll just say this much. In the Journal of Digital Humanities, David Bly has characterized it in this way. So topic modeling provides a suite of algorithms to discover hidden thematic structure in large collections of text. A topic model takes a collection of texts as input, and it discovers a set of topics or recurring themes that are discussed in the collection and the degree to which each document exhibits those topics. So there are many different kinds of topic models, and I'm going to show you a pretty run-of-the-mill type. And to further explicate the second part of this text here, I'll show you another diagram by David Bly. So on the left, you have topics as discovered in the modeling process. In the center, you have the documents that were the input texts. And on the right, you have a breakdown of this particular document in terms of the discovered topics. There's a bar chart on the right, which is color-coded and corresponds to the topics on the left, which were discovered. We could name these topics, for example, genetics, organismic biology, neuroscience, and so on. And you can notice that a given document doesn't have all of the topics prominent in it, but rather just some. So typical numbers are between 1 and 5 topics for any given document. And the number of topics for a given corpus can vary very widely, between 5 and 500 even, depending on your particular use case and the nature of the corpus. So with that much said, I'm going to now jump into ToPān, which is going to help us to do a lot of what you see in this diagram. It's going to help us input the collection of texts, discover the topics and the degree to which each document exhibits the topics. And furthermore, it will help us visualize the left-hand side, the topics in terms of the words which constitute those topics and the associated probability or prominence of each of those words within those topics. So to get started with ToPān, as you see here on the GitHub page, but remember, we're working with Tidy ToPān today, you need to have R installed and also a few libraries for R. I'm going to assume you're successful with that. Let me know if you need any help. And then we're going to start ToPān from the command line. So we actually have to go to the place on our computer where ToPān lives. And as you can see here, I'll run it again. We start the R program. We load a certain library. And then we run the app with this command. And that will bring up the ToPān application as a tab in our browser. So ToPān has a number of tabs running across the top, which will guide us through the process. Data input is the first step, and a number of formats are supported. I'm going to choose CSV as the simplest. I'll show you here on the side my corpus of Sanskrit philosophical texts already prepared. So the CSV, comma-separated value file, or here tab separated, consists of 2 columns. The actual text is on the right, and as you can see, there is no punctuation. And if you were able to distinguish the Sanskrit words, you would see that the individual words have been split. So sandhi and compounds in Sanskrit have been undone, but I have left the morphological endings, the declensions and conjugational endings, intact. Topic modeling can function even without doing this kind of stemming and lemmatization. But in general, you're going to tokenize your text into individual words as you see fit. And then corresponding to each of these texts is a unique identifier within the corpus. So essentially, I've broken a given book into its paragraphs, and then I've given an identifier for each of those pieces of text. A paragraph is an appropriate size. Something like a sentence is too small, and something like an entire chapter or an entire book is too large. Topic modeling does want a moderately sized document as input. Okay, so this is the CSV that ToPān expects from us. So I'm going to find this file and confirm that it's a tab separated file with an identifier column and a text column. And I'm going to choose the name Sanskrit philosophy for my corpus name. ToPān will first confirm for us that it has found our input, and you can see the number of documents summarized here, and you can further inspect them to make sure that everything looks okay. At that point, you're ready to move on to another part of pre-processing, which is stop word removal. So this has not been done beforehand. Rather, ToPān will help you, given the corpus that you are working with, calculate the highest frequency words. Here, 200 is a good starting point. So I'm going to use the same name, and I'm going to put 200 for stop words. I submit it, and ToPān calculates that for me, and it will present on the right side of the screen the result of this tabulation of the most frequent words. And again, you can inspect it, decide if this looks good, whether there are some words that need to be taken off this list, remove stop words, or added to this list, additional stop words. Once you submit, you save that stop word list for use in the next step, which is the actual modeling step. We're ready. So here, we make sure again that we have our proper corpus selected, and we have our proper stop word list selected. And we're going to name our output of the modeling in a similar way. Let's name it according to the number of topics that we're going to output. Here, 20 topics. Now, this number of topics is tricky to pick right on the first try. You should just use trial and error to try numbers of topics and then inspect the output. The other most important parameter for modeling, I would say, is the number of iterations. So 500 is good. 1,000 is better. I'm going to do 50 for this presentation just so you can see a full modeling run finish. So in the bottom right-hand corner, we see the model being prepared for us. These further parameters I'm not going to change today. We can talk about them later, but they're more fine-tuning. And I'll say while this is modeling that ToPān is right now handing off the actual calculation to another library in R, which is this one, LDA, simply named LDA. And it uses the Gibbs sampling method for doing the actual modeling. This is actually a good choice for those of us who are getting started with topic modeling. So it is what I would say robust and relatively insensitive to these parameters. So if you use other methods, such as variational Bayes, and if you do not set these parameters right, you can get much worse results. So the only downside of Gibbs sampling is generally that it takes a little bit longer to run. So again, the number of iterations will play a large role in determining how long your modeling takes. And something like 500 or 1,000 iterations generally gives you good results. And for a corpus of this size, this corpus is about 1.5 million words, it will take something like 10 minutes to run with 1,000 iterations, which is really not that bad. So on the bottom right, we're getting some updates, and before long, given the very small number of iterations, we're going to be already finished with the modeling. Again, the number of topics is an important parameter, and I encourage you, if you try this, to just try a bunch of different numbers and see when you interpret the results, whether the results make sense to you. Now, the results are going to come out in the form of lots of numerical data, but also, fortunately, we can use certain visualizations. Once we see the corpus on this right-hand side of the screen, we know that the modeling has finished. And we can move on to the first of those visualizations, which is LDA Viz. This is another library that's well-known, external to ToPān and being used here. Again, choose your proper corpus that you've just done, or choose your topic model that you've just trained. Here, we have our 20 topic model. And if we choose a given topic, we get a description of that topic in terms of its top words. I'll remind you of this diagram. This is like the left-hand side of this diagram. We're getting each topic described by its top words. And the visualization contains further features for considering how these words relate to other topics and which words are most unique to this particular topic. But there are better tutorials online. I'll leave you to explore that later. This is, as I said, the relationship of the term to topics. This is called the phi data, and it's only half of the output of the model. The other half is the relationship of the documents to the topics. So again, in this diagram, it's the right-hand side. How does each document relate to the topics that were discovered? So for this, you can view the raw data in the form of tables right here within ToPān. It's basically a spreadsheet, and there are some simple sort and search functions here, both for the theta and the phi output. You can also, alternatively, simply go to the ToPān folder, which you see here, tidy ToPān, and look in the www folder for the model output. Here under models, and under the one that we just created, and under tab, you will find phi.csv and theta.csv. The reason I'm telling you this, you can go ahead and look at these two spreadsheets. So here's phi. Phi, again, is the relationship of the topic, here described by the top terms, to each individual term. So there's one row for every single term in the corpus here. You can also look at the theta information directly, which is each document. Here, there's one row per document, the identifier and text, described in terms of each of the topics. So you could look across and see the breakdown of topics for each document. But this is not the most comfortable way to visualize it. And of course, Thomas has anticipated this and extended the functionality of his system with this second component, which is the tool Metallō. So Metallō is presented here on GitHub as well. And it is written in Go, but it does come with executables, which hopefully will make it easier for you to run. I actually want to defer to Thomas for most of this description. He has provided not only the instructions you see above, but a video here. And that video will explain the interface between his tools, ToPān and Metallō. What he will show you is the features of Metallō in that video. Let me just refresh this. Including a small graphical user interface feature. For the most part, though, Metallō's less frills and more functions like an API. So I just want to show you very briefly one important way to get Metallō started is you actually have to take this theta file from the ToPān model output and go over to where Metallō is installed on your system and give it that theta file. So this is the one that we just pasted over from ToPān. It's actually, give it this name. And you need to make sure that Metallō knows which of these theta files to look at by setting the correct file name here in the config file. So this corpus and model, which we just dealt with, was, as I mentioned, not an ideal one. We didn't do enough iterations. So let me actually take an earlier model so that you can see slightly better results. So here we are again starting this tool from the command line using a simple command like this. It doesn't pop up immediately in the browser. We have to go to the browser. And as Thomas explains, you get the views either of seeing a topic here, topic number 17, in terms of the 20 documents that best exemplify that topic. That's option number one. So understanding the topics in terms of documents, but also we can understand the documents themselves by issuing a query, a view query, with the document ID. So we can enter this document here, just so you see it's the same. And we can ask for a certain number of documents that are most similar to that document in terms of its topic breakdown. And this little interactive feature on the right will allow you to think about the space created by the topics and each of your corpus documents as a point in that space. So with this, I actually am going to complete my review of Thomas's tool and just mention one other thing, which is what I've gone on to do with the benefit of these tools. As I started to look into what Metallō could show me, especially, I saw just how powerful topics were as a way of exploring a corpus. Here is an example of direct textual reuse within my corpus, where a later text is quoting an earlier text, and this is being detected as the 10th highest topic similar document without any other features considered. And so I thought, this is already really powerful. How can I augment that to bring out such intertextuality features in my corpus? I went ahead and made a similar tool where I enter a given corpus identifier and get back a breakdown in terms of the topics. You'll remember here the diagram on the right with a bar graph describing the document in terms of the topics. And it also is providing me with a ranked list of similar documents here, not just by topic similarity, but also by TF-IDF score. And on the basis of that, I find that the results are much more meaningful, and I can even use something like text alignment side by side with some highlighting to bring out the exact correlation between these two documents within my corpus. Again, being discovered primarily through the power of comparison of topics. So with that, I want to emphasize just how useful these tools have been for me. I've been able to get comfortable with doing topic modeling and start to really think about what topics can do for me in understanding my corpus of, as it happens, philosophical Sanskrit texts. I hope you'll check out Thomas's tools here on GitHub. Also, you can check out my own GitHub page if you're interested in my own projects. And I look forward to your questions. Thanks.